So yesterday I was chatting with one of y'all and they raised this question, which is about applying effort. And here they say that when they're asked to apply effort towards an expected outcome, they sometimes feel resistance towards that practice. And furthermore, also intuit that there's something contradictory about applying effort in meditation. They conclude here by saying, it's like applying effort in order to achieve a certain outcome just seems contrary to the practice. So I never really know what I'll say, but I thought I'd have a go at just saying some things about applying effort in meditation, because it is a tricky sort of an idea. Great meditation should be effortless, yet nevertheless, there is something that we have to seemingly and experience trying to do, applying effort, until we get really good at meditating without any effort. The first part of this question is about receiving meditation instructions, which provide a hint or an expectation of what we want to have as an insight. For instance, we might be told to see if we can dissolve the shape of our body when we pay attention to it. The instruction might be something like, pay attention to your body in a way that you no longer can sensorily resemble the shape of it. Or we might be told something like, return to the object of your breath until you're no longer distracted and spaciousness opens up. I think there's a fair argument that perhaps these are not great instructions. I think it's good to establish the context of what we're trying to do in our meditation practice prior to meditating or post-meditating. But when we're actually sitting in practice, instructions which develop an expectation or result don't seem to make a lot of sense. Effort, expectation, striving, these will all corrupt our meditation. They enforce a sense of effort. They enforce a sense of expectation, striving, duality. We really, I think, in meditation want to be led to discovering these insights for ourselves. On the other side of things, sometimes this is alienating for people because they're returning to their breath for many, many practices with ever actually gleaning any insights, and then they don't understand why they're doing it. So that's why I think we should probably set up why we're doing it before meditating and after, so that we feel confident about the practice. But then the actual practice of meditation is always about sitting, resting, being, way more than it is about having an expectation of an outcome. I will very consciously, when I sit down to meditate, tell myself before I go into it, okay, there's nowhere to get to, there's no outcomes. The best practice is if I just sit, rest, be, with the least amount of ideas telling me or showing me how to do that. That's my number one approach. Sometimes that's challenging, so then I'll start using other ideas to help me rest and be. But ideally, the best meditation practice you can do is sitting down with no expectation, just resting and being formlessly, openly. And if we do that proficiently enough, insight arises on its own. Why are outcomes, striving, expectations contradictory? Because they're not being present. They're just another form of distraction out from the present being. If we're trying to do that, but we're focusing somewhere else with our mind, that's just being lost in thought. It's anticipating the future. If we're anticipating that, it's going to be really hard to be. I know a few of the followers of my content are also followers of the Waking Up meditation system. In that system, we get a teaching which is to turn awareness onto awareness. Again, this is kind of like a weird instruction, right? Because to turn awareness onto awareness, that sounds like an action which happens over time. Of course, we're limited by what we can do with language here to get ideas across. So, all meditation teachers are trying their best. But I know for me, when I think about turning awareness onto awareness, whenever that instruction works for me, I always think the instruction is a little bit ironic, because a corrector translation, in my experience, is that it has to be much more immediate. For me, when I hear turn my awareness onto my awareness, I convert it and think, just become aware. Become aware. And then it feels like, sure, my awareness is turned onto itself, but it has to be immediate for me. It can't exist in the future, can't be in action, because otherwise I'm always striving to do this thing which doesn't exist in the space of time. It's just a present being when we manage to turn our awareness onto our awareness. It's just being aware in the first instant or the first moment. That's another instruction which is given in the waking up system, and I quite like that one. What is consciousness or awareness in the first moment? If it's in the first moment, then you can't have the expectation or the striving, because it has to be now. I think it's good, though, to speak a little bit more generally about effort, because when we first began investigating meditation, a lot of the instructions we receive are going to be worded to suggest some kind of an effort. And as I say, until we can let go of that and do really a proficient or effective or sufficient meditation, that little bit of effort is going to be relevant. Otherwise, we'll just still be distracted or lost completely. And so then I want to contextualize this. I think one of the modern day challenges modern meditators face is we're really receiving little drips and drabs of meditation instruction. We're getting pretty good instructions these days, but what's missing is the extensive practice. It's totally different to tell monks in temples to apply effort in their meditation, or people who are, traditionally putting their entire lives into these practices. Retreats, their whole days are structured around meditative symbolism, at the least. So for them, applying effort, it seems like that's probably going to be less of a confusion for them. But for us in the modern world, when we hear meditation instructions and it doesn't click for us immediately, we're very quick to become confused or frustrated and try and want to figure it out. That's a modern world sort of, capitalist society striving reaction to try and figure these things out very quickly and think that we're bad at it. But if we were in the temples and donated our lives to this pursuit, struggling with the effort, some frustration here and there, some boredom, because that comes up sometimes too. People think, I'm just so bored, this is a serious problem. All of that stuff, it's just distraction. Those are the obstacles of meditation. Finding it frustrating, being disinterested. As long as we identify and value meditation, then we know we got to meditate. And then all these obstacles, they're just part and parcel of the long game. All resistance we find in meditation, it dissolves because we know it's a long game. Ideally, we're not just meditating today or in that session. We're meditating for the next decade or decades of our life. So I think it's good to inspire some of that inner temple meditation student in us. When we feel that frustration in our practice, I think, it's a long game. I got to do this today, tomorrow, the next day. It's just a form of getting distracted. When I sit down, I practice. Best practice is dropping all the effort. And then there's some time to play around with these more confusing things. But that's just more practice. I just got to practice. So I'll practice away. And then quite naturally, the conundrum of applying effort should dissolve back into its actual position in our lives. It's not a real concern. It's just another one of these fleeting thoughts. The more we can transition our obstacles in meditation into the transient, passing, fleeting moments of distraction or unawareness and return from them to being, that's good. That's what that's all about. That's what all those instructions are trying to make us do. May we all come to know such wonderful ways of being. May we remember why we meditate, the importance of meditation, how to meditate, and in that feel grounded, centered, and calm to know that the obstacles and challenges of meditation are just another part of moving forward. Hey, thanks so much for sending me this question, and I hope you're having a lovely day.
If Sonam Hani has helped you, please consider supporting for the benefit of others. Establishing a base engagement is the biggest hurdle for new ideas.